we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. Welcome to the imho.love show. I'm Lou Angelwolf. This is Mike Murburg. Welcome, everybody. Big day, 28th of July, 2021. I guess we should start out with condolences to the friends and family and fans of Dusty Hill, the incredible bass player for ZZ Top. He crossed over today. Made it to 72 years.
Yeah, now he's with Muddy Waters.
Yeah, exactly. So, they got it all going on.
Yeah, it's a geography lesson.
Dusty Hill, Muddy Waters. I get it.
Yeah, really.
Down in the Delta.
Joan Rivers. Yeah.
Joan Rivers. I don't know if Joan Rivers is dead though.
No.
No, I think she got taken out.
Yeah.
But not. I think she got removed from society.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's just me. I could be completely wrong.
That's okay, unless I put my fingers through the holes in her flesh, I will not believe.
A doubting Michael.
Right, exactly. Hey, there's a place for every doubting Thomas.
That's true.
He got written into the script for a reason.
Absolutely true.
But the second law of thermodynamics caught up to your amulet, huh?
Yeah, well, or a loose clasp. One of the two.
There you go.
All right. This is my lucid dreaming pendant. So, anyway, I'll fix that later. Welcome to the show, folks. I am imho.love, in my humble opinion.love. Like I said, I'm Lou Angelwolf, Mike Murburg. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. The show is broadcast nearly every week on Facebook Live, Wednesday nights at 7:30 Eastern Time. And then it gets shared by our wonderful producer, Kathy McGuire, who puts it up on BitChute and Podbean and imho.love and YouTube. So it's not hard to find. And do whatever you like with it. These shows are unedited and
unrehearsed.
And, you know, some of it's stream of consciousness, some of it's stream of happiness, some of it's...
Yeah, look at us like the D.H. Lawrence twins of CE5.
That was a way cooler reference than you know. Well, welcome, folks, and good to be here. Tonight's show is called Pacifist Rat Hunting. We'll get to that in a little bit. It is hard to be a pacifist and deal with pests. You know, are you eliminating sentient beings? What do you got going on? Like I said, Dusty Hill from ZZ Top, an incredible band for ever and a day. I think their first album was in 1969. They toured all over the world. They were loved by billions. And there's only 3 guys, so they got to shop for somebody. So badass bass players, start growing your beard. If they can even replace the guy.
No.
But if Billy Gibbons and Frank Beard even want to continue at this point. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. One of the things we say all the time on the show is use your head, trust your gut, and your heart will take you home as you're dealing with today's world, issues, people, problems, whatever. But a few weeks ago, I prepared this and turned the page and it stuck, and I didn't get a chance to share it with y'all. Kind of one of the missions of the show. People ask me why I do it. It's not monetized. We're not, we do this out of the love of our heart. And Mike and I have been blessed to have certain levels of love exchanged in our lives. We've had some hard lessons in life, and what we're trying to do is share the peace that all that time has given us. And just 3 really easy things. Everything, a lot of good things come in threes. 3, 6, 9. Okay. 1, return to innocence. That's, to me, as an adult, when you really sit and look around what's going on around you, you can almost link everything to a dulling of the innocence around you. Everything that, all the materialistic stuff, all the self-centeredness, the egocentric things, a lot of that is because of your lack of innocence. You've gone far from the innocence you came with, which was probably the most valuable thing you own. You still have a trace of it inside you. Some people have a whole large amount. Some people don't have much left. But there's still some in there, and you can return to it. 2, live with intention. Do something with your life. And this is part of our intention. Wouldn't you say, Mike, that sharing this show, this hour that we take on a Wednesday?
Well, we found truth, and we like to share it, and we like to share the path to it.
Yes.
So, and that's important. And what's going on in the world is the battle of materialism versus non-materialism.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and just know that the material providers want to keep you buying materials. They want you to continue consuming. That's and we're going to talk about a couple of things that we found that why a lot of that stuff got shortcutted. And 3, remain mindful. As you remain mindful, it's a 24-hour thing. Having the ability to...
Well, you have to define mindful. You know, what is mindful? And in my book, mindful means everything, be mindful. Be cognizant that everything you do, say, hear, think matters.
Wow, yeah.
Okay? That is true mindfulness.
Yeah.
Okay? And be mindful of not forgetting, like you said, returning to innocence, be as a child, trying to refine or recapture that innocence again, and just be.
Yeah, that's those 3 things: return to innocence, live with intention, remain mindful. It's a tall order, those 3 things right there. But as you work towards them, you will find yourself just having a happier disposition.
Yeah.
You'll be more content.
A lighter life. You have been
yes.
Enlightened.
Enlightened.
There you go.
I like it a lot.
Hey, I'm going to bring something up, you know.
Go ahead.
It just occurred to me that, you know, we have the materialist and the non-materialist. You can call non-materialist spiritualists, or the materialist non-spiritualists, okay?
Okay.
But it occurred to me, you know, in what we have going on in CE5, the greater majority of CE5ers, or a good number, understand that it's the spiritual nature of the soul and how it interfaces with other superior beings of higher spiritual nature, ET, you know, the ones we call that show up. Mm-hmm. And it's based on non-material, non-locality, quantum fields that connect us. And where the UFO subculture is getting it wrong is that when you bring up the word UFO or the acronym, it's material.
Yes.
So the problem is even within what we're dealing with, we have materialists within the CE5 contact subculture, and those who end up realizing that it's not about the nuts and bolts, it's not about seeing or touching the craft and knowing what makes them operate, propulsion, or whether Bob Lazar is bona fides or is bona bullshit, bada bing. But it doesn't matter, because it doesn't get you to where you need to go to interface yourself and make contact with ET.
That's exactly right. Now, and maybe a better term for that is the UAP, which is unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily allude to something materialistic.
Yeah, but they're just dodging the issue by calling it something else.
Yeah, it's high and outside.
Yeah. But we're more interested in engaging the phenomenon
Yeah.
at this point than trying to identify what the phenomenon is, who they are, and from where they come.
Yeah.
And none of those are really materialist questions.
Did you get that George Norrie link that I sent you where he interviewed those three guys and they're calling themselves the Summoners?
I saw that. And one of the guys from Harvard, I mean, they had to stick him in there.
Right.
I think that's cool.
Right.
Call them the Summoners, call them whatever you want. Yeah, I saw that. I watched it for a while, and it's like, well, these guys are doing what we do.
Right.
And the reason they're on is they're from California, and Las Vegas is close by, so everybody hears what that subculture is doing out there. So,
right.
But hey, we're in Darby. I mean, there's more cows in Darby than
there are people.
There are people.
That's great.
So
well,
what are you going to do?
But all in all, I think it was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, they brought up Yahweh, Prophet Yahweh,
Yahweh,
who's like always been a favorite of mine. The guy's modus operandi was walking out into the field and just, I don't know what was going on telepathically or consciously with him, but he'd go out into the field and just start yelling Yahweh, 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 and all of a sudden, the orbs would show up. Mm-hmm. And that's just remarkable. My hat's off to him, whatever. And that has nothing to do with C. SETI, Stephen Greer, or any of the clan.
Right.
That has everything to do with a guy who's spiritual in nature and just developed the ability to summon in ET, NHIs, craft, whatever you want to call them.
Well, it's interesting. The name of the creator has always been a fascination for me. And I'm in the same place 31 years ago when I really started my journey, when my awakening really came to be. 30 and a half years ago. The thing I set out to find out, what's the name of the creator of the universe? And I was told from the very beginning, it's a mystery, nobody's going to know. But I still have dirt behind my ears from so many rabbit holes that I've run down. The Yahweh thing, it does go back to Paleo-Hebrew, which is a pretty good ways back. But this earth is an old house, man. And there have been creators come and creators go. And I really do think they've almost like, how sometimes like a corporation will hire a whole new management team to come in and move things differently. I think that happens here on this big wet rock.
Yeah, well, what people need to realize that the humanoids, the ET, whatever they are all manifestations of the Tao itself.
Yes.
So
explain that a little more.
Well, they're later on in the show.
Okay. But I know you have great notes.
But the big picture is that all these, what we're looking at, all these manifestations, they're not the central focus.
Right.
They're the explosive fireworks that are going on. When in fact, what's going on is there's a guy on the ground with a torch lighting these things.
Right.
Okay, and nobody ever sees them. Nobody ever knows you even thinks
Pay no
about
attention
them.
to the man behind the curtain.
Right, exactly. And everybody's looking at the fireworks,
Okay.
And that's kind of a good explanation about what the Tao is doing behind the curtain of the subtle realm.
Okay.
It's back there orchestrating all the things that happen out here. And one firework may be one kind of ET, and another firework is another kind of non-human intelligence. We get focused on the fireworks, mm-hmm. and we lose touch with the reality behind it all.
That makes incredible sense.
Well, it's 'cause
you're
going
to have to stop.
Yeah, it's because it's true. It's very simple. It's true though.
Yeah, that makes incredible sense, and so therefore, like naming the creator remains a mystery to me. It's not God, which is actually just an Anglification of GOTT, which was a Teutonic earth deity who was way less than creator of the universe. He was like an assistant manager, really. So it's not that, okay? And then for simplification and for my own thing, I say creator spirit. Now, I don't know how spot on accurate that is, but that's the thing. That it's not even a name, really. It's more of a definition. As I reach into myself and then reach out to others, I find that it's the creator spirit that causes me to do these things. So with that little blessing of my own, I move forward. Don't always do a good job. I do try. I make mistakes. I try not to let them last too long. If I make a mistake, I'm quick to correct it and quick to move forward. If there were apologies or forgiveness to be dealt, I deal it. And because I can't have the problems of yesterday tainting today and making me stumble towards tomorrow. I want to walk squarely into tomorrow. Should we be blessed for that day? But Mike, I know that, and here's we're gonna circle. I'm gonna do the 7 senses, then we'll circle around to the Tao.
Yeah.
The world really is waking up. Whether the internet is the purveyor of all these things, it certainly is a reporter of it. I do notice there are some really, really beautiful people in the world, and a lot of them come to our CE5 events. They're just, I just love our group. And if you're interested in the CE5 and you want to know more about it, you can email Mike at darbyranchce5@gmail.com. That's DARBYRANCHCE5@gmail.com. He will defer you to the meetup, and there you will read the protocols. And if you want to do some studying on your own, Celia Hatch has a new revised version of a CE5 handbook, free download on the internet, or you can buy a static copy if you choose. Wonderful. They approach it with the same heart that we do, non-commercialized, organic seeking. So how could I possibly charge you for the most valuable thing in the world? You know, that's kind of how I look at it.
Well, and it's also your duty as a human being to share it as a higher, as a higher being.
And I take that charge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
But one of the things I notice as things get censored, and this was a glaring thing that happened to me a couple of years ago, and then I even had another layer of it revealed to me the last couple of days, maybe today. We're always in touch with our 5 senses: our sight, our hearing, our taste, our smell, and our touch. Okay, that's where they're trying to. That's a manipulation. Okay, because there's 2 more senses that they constantly fail to recognize. 1, intuition. Okay, and 2, telepathy. Those in the ancient organic texts, there were 7 senses. 7 being a divine number. Taste, smell, touch, hearing, sight, intuition, and telepathy. See, now they really, the controlling sanctions really don't want you being intuitive. And they certainly don't want you exercising your telepathic abilities, because you have them. You have them. You came here with them. Like that thread of innocence that's still in your spine, your intuition and your telepathy is in there as well. And as we break these bonds of decades and decades of learning and unlearning and compromising and not compromising, we're going to find that the more you study your 7 senses, the more complete and content your life will be. Now, those of you who've been watching the show know that Mike is a very deep student of the Tao, and he's been translating the Wahoo Ching teachings for us every week, and I know you have a really great entry this week.
Oh, is that the segue?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me comment a little bit on the telepathy and the intuition, okay?
Okay.
Intuition is based on empathy, which is based on the ability of the heart to feel and to know.
Yes.
So it's not mental. So we've lived in since Descartes, a dichotomous universe where the spiritual and the material are separated. That's why empathy and telepathy have been cut out of the herd.
Okay.
They're meant for the spiritual realm. Render unto the church what is the church, and the science what is science. That's essentially Descartes. But with telepathy, because I am a telepath, admittedly so, and experientially so, my theory is that when you access this space-time continuum that we talk about, that defies materiality and accepts everything there is to do in the quantum field, non-locality and all that, is that there are people who are natural telepaths. This is something.
Yes.
This is something that Nancy Dutetra and I have talked about, and she's a telepath as well.
Yes.
Hollis is a telepath as well.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, this is not something you should be ashamed of. It's something that is of a very, very natural order of things. I knew the future in a number of events. Sadly, they were not good events in my own life, but when you telepath and you hook into that space-time continuum, it's also the same continuum that remote viewers tap into. There is no future. There is no past the way we traditionally know it, because they can see in both directions.
Right.
I mean, there's Ingo Swann is his famous description of a field where there was a tower in it and stuff like that. He wasn't seeing the field as it existed in the present. He was seeing the field as it existed 30 years ago and describing it. Nobody knew that until they went into history and found out that, yes, in fact, there was a tower there where he described there was a tower and all that stuff. So people can go into the past and they can go into the future. And we need to stop rejecting these as impossibilities and start accepting them as possibilities and research them. Same thing what they did at the University of Virginia Medical School with the past lives. We've been rejecting reincarnation in past lives for centuries now, because the Catholic Church said, no, you can't do that. It's,
right.
It doesn't go along. It's not copacetic with our doctrines. But in the fact it's real, it exists. I mean, there 20,000 cases in the database at the University of Virginia right now, and at the medical school and the psychiatric department, in their own research department on after death experiences. So to defy this as non-scientific is preposterous as well. Yeah. It is something that we should be engaging in and studying in all the time. Now, when you brought up that I don't know what to call it, that's what in the first couple chapters of the Tao Te Ching it explains that, hey, it's the I am that I am. We don't know what the name of it is. To name something doesn't identify it. Doesn't help you at all with it.
It actually minimizes it.
Right, exactly. To name me is to minimize me.
Yes.
Okay. It boxes me in.
And to number you is worse.
Well, yes, with a whole nother subject, but but so the Tao it's just the name we use for the nameless,
right? And
that's how it's referred to. And
the Tao is the name you use for the nameless.
Right.
Okay.
So
I like that.
Yeah, and it's the energy behind all creation.
Okay.
It's you experience the Tao, for example, when you sit down and paint a picture, or do something you enjoy doing, because time melts away. You don't experience time. When time melts away, you don't experience ego. When you don't experience ego, you experience being, and in being you experience your coexistence and integral existence with the Tao.
Whoa. Yeah.
So that's how it works.
Nice.
It's real simple. You know, I mean, this is
Nice phrasing there.
Well, yeah, after a while, you start getting it. And this has been around for 2,500 years. This is like, you know, the Tao Te Ching is the operating manual for human beings.
Yeah.
And ET, and other beings, and celestial beings, and universal beings, and however you want to call them. And what Lao Tzu writes about beings, and in his teaching, the Wahoo Ching, which is an oral tradition, he's not referring to just human beings. I sincerely... I know that he's talking about other beings, because, you know, my re-entry into this realm came with studying the Tao and the Wahoo Ching, and, you know, a celestial being showing up, and I got a download, and it was nice enough to allow me to take photographs, because if I came along telling people this, they would think I was stark raving mad.
Right.
And I'm not. This is real.
Nope.
And it, you know, and it comes to me not by E-SETI or C-SETI or any other SETI. It came to me through the study of Tao.
Yes. But one of the reasons you've had such wonderful personal success is your diligence in learning. Okay, you set hours apart every week to study this, learn this.
Every morning.
And every morning.
Yes.
Okay. And it guides you through the day.
Yes.
When you leave your shelter in the morning, you have a mindset that's superior to most of the other people that you're encountering that day. And that's by your own cultivation. Okay? I hope for similar skills, similar energies for myself. I have a similar similar activities and a similar mindset, but it's like I came at it from a little different angle.
Yeah.
But we wound up in the same place.
Yeah, well, you came from a loving, beautiful family where everybody, you know, loves each other, likes each other, gets along. I came from, you know, with the exception of my father, I came from a very abused background, which, you know, took the innocence of childhood away from me and then threw me into a psychological mindset where I was constantly anxious and defensive, which ended up being the underlying anxiety disorder that caused my obesity, that caused me to, you know, to take the track that I did.
Sure.
But this is the line I wanted to bring out in chapter 37. Master Nee talks about he said, the trees and the animals, the insects, and the birds are all active images of the subtle energies that flow from the stars to us and throughout the universe. These subtle energies meet and combine with each other and the elements to give rise to all life. So our part in that is to be that energy that gives a positive influence to others in life. I mean, for example, if I'm on the phone with a client, my clients are disabled. They're without money, they're without means, and they're really on the edge of their life a lot of times. So when they get on the phone, they don't need somebody telling them they did the wrong thing.
Right.
They screwed up. What they need is, number one, somebody who's going to listen and understand. To listen is to love. And then they need somebody, and just that energy where you're willing to listen and you're willing to help without fee or cost or anything else.
Right.
That energy makes their lives so much better. Or if I can give them a piece of information that they didn't consider that's helpful, and they gets them to another resource or another human that can help them out, that's an immense relief off of them. And even though it's within the realm of my practice, you can do that in daily life with anybody and anything who's in need of help. And if there's a way that you can help them and provide some positive energy do it, because that's what we're created to do.
Absolutely. Oh, sure. We should look to the trees.
Yes.
The trees have an underground root system where they help each other. If there's a tree in the field that's ailing, the other trees sense it, and they send roots that way, and they inject their healthy roots into the failing tree.
And that's exactly how the Tao works. You cannot see what's happening under the ground with the roots, but you can see the tree and how it comes to fruition with the help of what's going on in an unseen world. And it's a good analogy for the Tao.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. And we've all heard the expression, there's nothing new under the sun, okay? And this, in its most organic state, you said something beautiful before the show. The law of energy response should be taught to children the moment they can understand it.
Right. And the law of energy response is that essentially it's the blessings that one receives are in direct response to those that one gives away.
Yes.
And we kind of talked to about who's that guy?
Oh, Anthony Robbins.
Anthony Robbins, who does the witchcraft version of this.
See, he cuts off a couple elements.
Well, yeah, he's the hack. He gives you the hack. He doesn't give you, you can follow his. What do they call that? It's not the Joel Osteen doctrine of wealth. It's,
right.
What's wrong?
The Secret and Manifestation.
Oh yeah, what's he call that? It'll come to. We don't know what he's talking about. But basically, it's an egocentric. You deserve this. You want. You get. And then you put this energy out there, this intention out there, and then it'll all come back to you. You know. And that's great if all you want to do is be a multimillionaire and sit around at the end of your life and count your money. But if you haven't advanced spiritually from it, what has it gotten you?
Right.
Life is. Those who succeed in the video game of life learn how to play the video game, and that's all they learn how to play. They don't go behind the scenes to learn how it operates, and the X's and the O's and the diagrams and everything else. And that's how the material world operates. But aside from that, those who go for a deeper meaning and really search for the meaning behind the video game, the operational system, they're looking at something bigger. I mean, it doesn't help them to reproduce and have larger families and more human beings, but what it does help them do is understand the nature of reality and then get the hell out of here.
Yep.
Because that's the goal of this game. It's not to die with the most number of toys,
right? Because
you're just dead, and the toys get sold at auction.
Well, exactly. Well, and we had a mutual friend pass, George Pacifist.
Yes, good guy.
And Bill, the guy I work with, was reading some of they're gathering his final respects and all that other stuff. And in the Greek, he was Greek, and in their mindset, they're not all about the rest in peace kind of a thing. Their thing is, may his memories be eternal. So, and he was a good guy. So, and he helped many people. So in that, like you do. So you're totally on the right track of may your memories be eternal, and they certainly will. Okay? I've been to 5 funerals in the last year. Okay? 2 weeks, half the people, 2 weeks after the funeral, I forgot that I went to their funeral.
Right.
And their name would come up, or I'd see it somewhere, and I go, "Oh yeah, that guy's dead." Not that I wasn't grieving for their family or anything. I was doing all that, proper emotional direction. But but there were a couple of people whose lives really touched my life because their directive was spiritual and caring.
And that's the nature of immortality.
Yes.
That positive energy, positive influence that they imparted to you during the course of your lifetime made them immortal. Their influence lasted longer than their mortal being.
Yay.
Okay.
There you go.
And it once again, the
Without the magic of the internet.
without the magic of the internet. Well, it's like Pushkin said at Dostoevsky's funeral. He said, "May the love that united us to him now be the love that unites us together."
Ah.
And that's kind of what I said at the last CE5. And it seemed to be helpful. So. And once again, we're not going to go into the nature of immortality at this point. Maybe next week or whatnot.
Sure.
There's so much here that can be discussed that I don't want to give it short shrift because it's very important. Stuff like, well, we can talk about undiscriminating virtue or whole virtue, which is one of the building blocks to higher spiritual states and contact. And what I'll voice here in not very artful way is what Lao Tzu talks about in chapter 36. And he says that whole virtue is an energy frequency with which high spiritual beings are attuned. Now, he's talking about high spiritual beings. He's not talking about human beings.
Okay.
He's talking about high spiritual beings. It is they who respond to energies of the same subtle frequency as their own. What one produces, one attracts. The energies of undiscriminating whole virtue and the energies of all high spiritual beings are co-joint, meaning we recognize and interrelate with and to one another because of our frequencies are all the same.
Yes.
Which is when we're doing CE5 and we're making contact, what we try to do is raise our frequencies to the highest level so that we have the frequencies of the higher beings we're trying to attract, which is why we never attract any evil, dark wizards that come from the dark side and, tear through the space-time continuum and throw our atomic bombs back at us. See, we're not doing that. And he goes on, the universal virtues of undiscriminating truth and universal compassions are traits common to all integral universal beings because these beings practice undiscriminating virtue. So in order to be a member of the CE5 intergalactic community of higher order of beings, you got to get your game up. Okay? This is not pointing the finger at the government and saying we want an answer. It's a matter of, oh my God, I've been a wreck all these years and I can rectify myself and I can clear my head and I can clear my mind and spirit and I can actually make contact with beings that are higher than I am because they love me enough to stoop to find me and,
Sure.
and give me aid and assistance in my trying to become a better being.
And you're doing great, brother.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
not that I'm, not that my opinion levies any weight, but as a seeker myself, the things that you share with me and the things we eventually share with everybody on the show, they really, really resonate with me. It's like, because from what I gather, the seeking that you've done and the diligence in your study has left you basically with an agendaless virtue. You're not trying to win me over. You're not trying to get me to join a club. You're not trying to get me to follow you. What we share with the people, what you share with the people, what the show shares, is that here's some interesting information, folks. And if you're wondering why you're confused, this could be part of the reason why you're confused. Well, like, we said earlier in the show, they've been telling us all of our lives that we have 5 senses, okay? We all know them, right? But they leave out intuition and telepathy, which will further expand your being. They talk about the 5 elements, and they always leave out the ether. They always leave that out. They don't want you venturing forward in your mind. They don't want you clearing your pineal gland. That's why there's fluoride and all these other blockers, and that's why everything has sugar in it. All that stuff blocks you. It slows you down. It makes your body heavy and non-responsive. So as we peel away all these layers of bullshit that we've been dealing with for our whole lives, especially Westerners, we've had it thrown at us from the minute, can't get enough super sugar crisp. We've been dealing with it our whole life. So now, here we are, we got snow on the roof and bones that pop and creak and whatever. But what Mike said is the law of energy response should be taught to children as early as possible. And it seems to be, and there are some schools that do teach it in a paraphrased way, but they kind of shut it off there and they don't go into the deeper meaning of it.
Right.
But it's kind of like, do unto others as you would like done unto you.
Right. They used to teach that before they called that teaching it religion. Then they kept you from teaching it in public schools. So yeah, it's a big mess. Mm-hmm. It's a big, and if children were taught this at a very early age, it would become second nature to them to be kind to others.
Yes.
Because the law of energy response, gives you what you give out.
Yes.
And instead of teaching that as to an adult at an older reality, which makes the teaching very difficult because it's not our nature at this point. We've been in a dog-eat-dog world for so long that we don't see giving as the quid pro quo to getting. We see getting as the quid pro quo to giving.
Nice.
So,
nice.
What you have the least of, and you need the most, you should give away because that will come back to you. It makes absolutely no sense to a materialist mind, but it is nonetheless the law of energy response that guarantees that return.
Man, that's some beautiful truth, man.
Yeah.
I would say it's heavy truth, but it's light. It's light.
Well, look at everything around me here. This has all been gifted to me.
Yes.
This is,
Yeah.
it.
You lack nothing.
Lack nothing, and something. It just managed to accumulate. It's like how much I don't want anymore.
Right.
And the thing is, at the end,
you want some of this stuff?
Well, yeah. Each piece is like I refinished that piece, and it's got history, and there's got a lot of love and a lot of stuff that was left to me.
What you can't see off camera here, folks, is not one, not two, but 3 television with built-in VHS tape players.
I used to need them, but in case you want to buy one, it's like I'm setting up a raffle. I'm just kidding. But once again, at the end of my life, what do I want? I want nothing. I want nothing but a free soul, and a spirit that I know that I've given as much as I can give. I've done as much as I can. I've helped as many people as I could, and it's like Quanah Parker.
Yeah.
Did we ever discuss Quanah Parker?
No.
Quanah Parker was the half-breed son of...
Quanta?
What's that?
Quanta?
Quanah. Quannah. Quanah Parker. He was the last great Cheyenne chief.
Okay.
Quanah Parker was the last Cheyenne chief with the last band of warriors that was brought in by the U.S. cavalry. He eventually surrendered. But Quanah Parker Parker was his mother's name, but his father was an Indian chief, and he grew up. He was 6'4" and 225 pounds of. He would just take it on, man. And,
yeah.
I mean, he was ruthless, and he was just absolutely brave and reckless. And his men loved him, and they'd do anything for him. And he was the greatest of all the Cheyenne leaders. And you need to know
they named that pickup truck after him.
Well, the Cheyenne were, their kingdom, their country covered most of the United States. They had a greater territory than either France, England, Spain, or the United States of America at one point in time.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
they used to hunt Apaches for fun. Okay.
Okay.
And with the Cheyenne were they were the first ones to, not the first, but they were the first ones to master the riding of the horse. So they went from being hunted themselves. They were like the butt boys of the block for like hundreds of years, and then they discovered the horse, and then they became the most incredible warriors because they never got off the horse. And if you got off the horse, you would die. They learned if you stayed on your horse and fought from your horse, you would always win. So they conquered the territory from all the way up to where the Blackfoot are in northern Montana, all the way down to the Mexican border, as far west as Los Angeles and as far east as the Mississippi River.
Wow.
And they went all the way down through Texas, right on
That was
down.
all Cheyenne territory.
Right, all Cheyenne territory, right on down to the Gulf.
Wow.
All right, yeah. And what Quanah Parker did is, when he surrendered, he had many ponies, as they would say. But he ended up surrendering, and he ended up becoming a bridge between the Cheyenne people and the United States government. And he became a very wealthy man because he figured out that instead of the Indians or Native Americans giving their land away, he would maximize the rents and the profits by leasing Indian land to cattle growers, and then eventually developing the cattle industry for the Cheyenne themselves. He adopted 21 children, all of mixed race.
Wow.
All of mixed race, and he acquired, in what today's value would be many millions of dollars, $20 or $30 million. He was the first Cheyenne to buy like a Model T and drive it. But when it came time for him to pass on, he had given absolutely everything he owned away.
Wow.
So when he passed free of any attachment to any material wealth, and it was intentional, and that's the way he decided to live his life. So for me,
I love that guy.
Quanah Parker is a role model.
Absolutely.
So
wow.
for what it's worth, that's the story of Quanah Parker.
That's a great story. And then he dealt with the government.
Yeah, and
we all know how that worked out.
Yeah, he did very, very well. So
Yeah.
But he was But you read about him, and he was just absolutely fearless.
Yeah.
Absolutely fearless.
Hey, balls.
Yeah. Right, courage.
Like Tony
courage.
Montana says, all you got in this life is your balls.
Yeah, but once again, he was a man of truth, and when it came time to surrender, it was time to no longer wage war. It's time for me to save the human beings that I have in my charge and in my custody, and make life better, because we are facing an enemy that is much larger and much greater than we will ever be able to overcome. And it's the same situation we're in today.
Yep.
We're facing a federal government that is the same way. It's a much bigger, and I'm going to say it's a much bigger enemy than we will ever be able to overcome. So we have to, concede that, you may win, you may win, you may take over our bodies, but you will not break our spirit, nor will you take our souls.
Amen.
So,
amen. And that people ask why I do this show or whatever show I do, especially this show, and it is for that particular reason. So, it's just been so. Last few months of my life have just been a very large evolution. I've just seen amazing things happen to where life cycles just intermingle. Last night I had the honor of performing a wedding ceremony for my friend John and his new wife Jane. Jane is from Kenya and John is from Bradenton. And he's a comedian, great dude. And they met online, and over the last 4 years they courted and talked back and forth, and she visited here and he visited there, and they went back and forth a few times. He went over and met her family, so it's all wonderful. Well, last night was the wedding ceremony, and it was, like I said, it was my honor to join these two. They're both beautiful, beautiful people. And for all of these things, for me, an old stand-up comic, an old car salesman, an old whatever, to meet this wonderful woman from Kenya who came into one of my best buddies' lives to improve it, to make it wonderful, just such a taste of a blessing. I'm constantly blown away. And so, Mazel Tov, John and Jane, may you live long and happy. So, and like I said, we named the show Pacifist Rat Hunting. And we thought we had, the CE5, the Area 52, is out in the country, as you might imagine. And there's critters here. And this art studio up here is a big place. But you know what, Mike? I think we nipped it in the bud. I think, we thought it's a rat, okay? And rats, you kind of got to get them away from you. You can't let them be.
Right.
They're not good for humans. They spread sickness and stuff.
Right. Well, I had a discussion with a Buddhist this week.
Okay.
And she asked me, well, how do you deal with the problem of cockroaches?
Right.
And it's like, well, and I said, yeah, I had a rat come into my house, and I had to trap it, and I gave it fair warning. I felt bad about it too, because I startled it, and it saw me, and it took off, and it almost knocked itself out running into a table leg. So it's like, man, you're a loser. You're not only a rat, but you're a loser. But eventually had to trap it, and it died. And she goes, well, how do you reconcile that? And I said, well, with the Hindus, there was a time when the rat population got so bad in India that the people couldn't eat.
Right.
So, and they had to eradicate the rats. So at some point in time, when that rat is going to bring into, or that bug or whatever it is going to bring into your life sickness,
right,
and becomes a health risk to you, well, then you have every right to defend yourself against it. And as a follower of the way, although I have to value all life, sometimes rats have to get proper warning, and if they don't, that's the difference between the Taoist and the Buddhist. The Taoist will kill a rat and feel sorry about it, but the Buddhist won't kill the rat or feel sorry about it. I mean, they're
right,
under the delusion that you can actually trap it and then take it out far into the woods, but it'll never come back. But I watched that movie, The Incredible Journey, and I'm just saying, if a dog can do it, a rat can do it too. So it's like, I mean, I've had friends do it with possums, and
right,
and same thing. I mean, they drove 20 miles, dropped the possum off, and 3 days later, it's back in its home under the house again. It's like, you don't understand the rules. What am I ever going to do?
Well, Michael Jackson said it. Ben, the two of us need look no more.
Oh man!
So
it's like,
well, here was the salve. Here was the salve. We go, what about this rat problem? And then we went, it's probably a squirrel.
It's probably a squirrel.
It's probably a squirrel. So now it's okay. We've eliminated our rat guilt,
right,
by thinking that it's a squirrel, and that bushy tail, it is a big winner. I tell you what, if squirrels had little skinny, no hair, pointy rat tail, if squirrels had rat tails, we'd be shooting them out of trees every day.
Yeah,
but that big bushy tail, I mean, it gets them on product labels, kids' books. That tail is really something.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, squirrels aren't really known for carrying the plague either.
It was funny. We'll close on the squirrel notation. When I lived out in Austin, I was vegetarian at that time. Perfect. You moved to the barbecue capital of the world and become a vegetarian. So
I was in barbecue sauce with my broccoli.
But barbecue sauce and broccoli is good. Anyway, have you had the buffalo cauliflower? Buffalo prepared cauliflower?
No.
They cook it like buffalo wings.
Yeah.
But it's cauliflower. It's delicious, dude.
Huh.
Yeah.
Buffalo cauliflower.
Anyway, I was juicing every morning, and I would cut, and I was buying everything at an organic market, dude. I was wearing Birkenstocks. Everything was great. And I cut the bushy carrot tops off, okay? And, because, carrots have a little green thing on the end. And if you get them that way. And I cut it, right? And I used to throw them out in the yard. And, eventually they'd be gone when I got back from work that day. Everything would be gone, whatever I discarded out there, whatever I repurposed. Okay. So anyway, I threw these carrot tops out. I had to run back into the house. A squirrel came down from a tree, and he found like a big chunk one that I put out there. And dude, he held it up over his head, and he ran with it like he had the Stanley Cup. Look what I got! Look at the size of this carrot chunk. So, it's amazing. All that, those little pieces of compassion, those little pieces of humor. It really is the flavor of life. Mike, thank you so much for. Where are we at on time?
We're going. It's
about there.
Yeah, official time is 8:26. So,
okay. We're gonna
so
let that first number be a 5 on the hunt.
So what you're basically telling us is one man's garbage is another rodent Stanley Cup.
But a pretty rodent.
It's a squirrel.
I know. It's a rat with a bushy tail.
Who can't love a squirrel? He's like,
oh, look what I got.
I'm ready to come up with the trap, and now I got to get a little heart thing. Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the imho.love show, tuning in, subscribe, like it, share it, whatever you want to do with it. It's on Facebook, YouTube, BitChute, Podbean. It's not hard to find. And thank you so much for everybody that listens. We don't even know where these episodes wind up, but we hope that we said a little something that maybe you would enjoy or maybe even use in your life. So thank you for watching and tuning into the imho.love. That's in my humble opinion, .love. And like we always say every week, use your head, trust your gut, and your heart will take you home. So,
and next week, I think we can discuss the law of existence and why things that are in balance endure.
The law of existence and why things that are in balance endure. Wow.
Yeah, this is good stuff.
It is. Well, that's what it's all about, man. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. And hi, Tim, and Mark, and Suzette, and Annette, and oh wow, a lot of people watching now. Thank you so much. Hey, Daniel. Hey, I love you guys, and you're awesome. And be well, be blessed. See you next week.